thinking and feeling and believing. Think, don't believe. 47. Yeah. Think, don't believe. 47. This is selects. And if you're one of those people out there that have not been watching these videos in succession, then I highly recommend you do so. Recommend you do so. Like a book, look, like a book. Like a book. Like a book. Book. Like a book. Think, feel, and believe. In the last video, we talked about your past does not equal your future. You know, and the tragedy and the difficulties that are caused because of the human and the flesh element. The human and the flesh element. The human and the flesh element. Yes, and that would be that we are mainly and mostly driven by emotions. That we are mainly driven by emotions. Emotions. We're driven by emotions. And gosh darn it, golly, wally, bolly, dolly, golly, golly. I wish you could just shut them off. I wish there was just a switch. You could just go shut them off sometimes. Keep you out of a lot of trouble, that's for darn sure. I mean, think how many people they get pulled over by the police officer, and if you just calm down your darned emotions, you wouldn't have got the ticket. I mean, there was a particular period of time when well, and I had a little bit of a different background, so to speak, and so I thought differently, so to speak. I used to have this store across the street from a police department, and so a lot of those police officers used to come into my store, and I used to talk to them. And I got to tell you one thing: they are people out there that are just like everybody else. They don't like their job, and they don't want to go, and they would just rather do something else and stay home too. I mean, they're people just like you and me, you see. But people view them differently. It's like they put a barrier up against everything, like they're like some sort of different thing. So, you know, I had a lot of conversations with them, and because they used to come into my store and ship stuff. Can you imagine this? I'll never forget this one time. This guy brought in, he went and bought a bunch of boxes, and then they packaged up like, it had to have been like 30 or 40 rifles. It had been like 30 or 40, and this was way back then when there wasn't all the crazy stuff with guns and everything that was going on. They were sending back like 30 or 40 rifles in these 3 boxes, and all they did was just stick them in these boxes and box them all up and tape the boxes shut, and we put labels on them. We just shipped them UPS. I mean, and this was years ago. I'm talking years ago, like probably like 20 years ago, right? So, and you know, and I were just kind of crazy. I mean, you think about the stuff that we used to do then that we would sure not do now. But anyway, so they used to come into my store a lot, and so I used to have conversations with them, and they, you know, and I even kind of befriended some of them, and you know, and like I said, they're people just like everybody else. They don't want to go to their jobs just like everybody else. They'd rather go fishing. They'd rather go doing whatever it is instead of go to work and put in their time just like everybody else. So I always saw them as I always saw them, you know, as kind of just like everybody else, you know, just like people. I mean, imagine that. Hey, cop, you're people just like everybody else. Imagine that. You know, so when like I'd get pulled over, and this happened a few times, and not really, but I mean, this happened I don't know, like 3 times I could recollect. a couple of times I was like shocked. But here's the thing, is that I'd get pulled over, right? And come up to my door, and he'd turn around and I'd say, "Hello, sir." And I know that probably just stunned them, right? I'd just say, "Hello, sir." And he might, because like sometimes police officers try to ask you questions to get you to, "Why were you speeding?" "Oh, because so I just go, "Hello, sir." And then be just really friendly. And I think that would set him off. Because that's not what they get most of the time out there, is there? They don't run into people with good attitudes because everybody's connected to their emotions, right? So because I'd have a different experience with police officers or other dudes that happen to be cops, and so I got to know them that they're just like me, and so I kind of had a different understanding. So I had a different thought about them, and so I didn't really feel like some people, "Oh, that's stupid, I'm getting pulled over, blah, 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 attitude. And then but when he come up to, I'd be, "Hello, sir." He, couple of times, just to make the story short. But anyway, license and registration, please, and I just give them to him and thank you and just very courteous and everything. And you know what? I remember one time, two times I definitely should have got tickets for speeding, and he let me go. Oh, yeah. So things can be good if you think, feel, and believe differently. Yeah. Things can be different for you if you think, feel, and believe differently. But what am I trying to talk to you about here? The fact that we're driven by emotions, by everything, because of how we wish to think about things, right? And this is think, feel, and believe, right? So we just kind of use that as particularly as an example. We use that as an example, because I thought differently about police officers that made me feel differently when they walked up to my window, which gave me a different result. But what happens to other people? "Oh, yeah, what do you want? What did I do this time?" And then booyah, you're getting a ticket like that. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make here is like, we're connected to our emotions by how we wish to think about things. Because how we think about things immediately causes an emotion. On just about everything, right? I mean, however you think about things, we're so intertwined and connected as a human being that whatever it is we think is usually associated with some sort of emotion. So it's emotions that are out of control, a lot of things. And, what's directing our lives, a lot of it for the most part, obviously the synergistic component that really starts things, you see, is the particular thoughts that you decide to have about certain things. And then when you have those thoughts about certain things, you see, then it causes a certain feeling, you see, and then you're acting out from there. Whatever it is, you're acting out from there. And, let's just focus on the reality, the fact that most of the things that are going on in this life, and that's negativity. It's negativity. Yeah, all the negative stuff that's really going out there because, let's just face it. There's a 20% chance of rain, but they don't talk about the 80% of sunshine. 80% of sunshine. No, it's all the negative. So if we're thinking about that negative, and we're just kind of on that right. We're just kind of on that right, like right now. The thoughts that we're having a lot about things are giving us a negative emotion towards it. And you know what? You're manifesting those things too. Because you're causing that feeling, the thought, feeling, and then you have a belief. Like people want to go out there and say the police officers and however you want to criticize them, whatever language or whatever it is you want to use. It's not appropriate. Okay. It's not appropriate. Come on, gotta respect there, brother. Gotta respect. So think about that. Just know that you are connected emotionally about a lot of things, and a lot of things that are going on in your life are because of the emotions that you're putting out. So be happy.